Solo leveling is absolutely amazing and you will 100% love it. While starting off very simple, the series perfectly embodies every single aspect of the story, but also evolve into a way more complex story. And Sung Jinwoo, the protagonist, is one of the best characters that I've seen in a minute. A character that not only has a very interesting growth, but also sticks by his morals no matter what. And that is whether he's the weakest or the strongest. In this video, I'm going to talk about Sung Jinwoo's character as well as what makes him so enjoyable. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, but only if you enjoy. And let me know in the comments what moment is your favorite in the whole series. But before we get into it, I have an announcement for you. If you're looking for some good quality clothing at a good price, look no further than Anime Express. Whether you're looking for comfort or style, they would have everything you need. Literally everything from all of your favorite series. Of course, they have Jujutsu Kaisen, but they also have a multitude of other series. And on top of basic clothing, they have all sorts of accessories, whether it is for you or simply to decorate your house. Things such as bonnets, rings, lights, or whatever you would want. If you want to support my channel or simply get some good clothing for yourself, go over at animeexpress.store. And before your purchase, don't forget to use code GodlyOmen10 for 10% off. Hopefully you find something for you, and thanks to Anime Express for sponsoring this video. And now let's get into it. Sung Jinwoo starts off as a E-rank hunter, E-rank being the lowest out of all the ranks. But even amongst the E-ranks, he happens to be the weakest, with his title being the weakest hunter of all of mankind. The problem in this world is that once you become an awakened being, there is no way for you to get stronger. There is no such thing as experience, there is no such thing as increasing your stats. So most likely, being an E-rank means that you're going to be an E-rank for the rest of your life. But even knowing that, Jinwoo never gave up on being a hunter, always trying his best to survive or support others when it comes to clearing dungeons. And ever since he became a hunter, he has been on the brink of death multiple times. But every single time, he would find a way to survive, either by being lucky or sometimes even by perseverance alone. And what's so great about this manhwa is that everything makes sense. Everything that happens has either been foreshadowed or will be explained later. There's literally nothing that can be labeled as plot armor, at least nothing that I can think of from the top of my mind. But with Jinwoo never giving up and always continuing to go into gate, one day he ends up entering a D-rank dungeon with stronger hunters. For somebody like him, even a E-rank dungeon is dangerous, so a D-rank was something that he would actually have to be careful for. But everything was going to be okay as long as he stood behind everybody else. And even though he suffered a serious injury, he ended up getting healed and everybody else cleared the dungeon very easily. But they happened to run into another gate. Being inside of a D-rank dungeon, they probably thought that nothing bad could have happened. They ended up entering the dungeon, but this was to their biggest surprise. This was a S-rank dungeon inside of a D-rank gate called the Kartanan Temple. And once they entered the room, it was already over for them as the door closed behind them. Unless they were able to solve the puzzle, everybody would die. With Sung having a lot of near-death experience, as well as dungeon experience and a high IQ, he was able to help some of them survive by carrying them through multiple steps of the dungeon. In the very end, he got betrayed by the same people that he was helping. He ended up thinking to himself that every single one of them crying about their families are just making excuses because everybody else is feeling that way. But instead of trying to help everybody escape to avoid that problem for everybody, they would rather just run away and save their own lives. But in the very end, as Jinwoo was about to die, he got a message telling him that he could have another chance. His perseverance finally took him to that point. Reading this the first time, you would most likely think that this is some crazy plot armor, because it was crazy for him to get that message right before his death, almost like he awakened his ability at the perfect moment possible. But the reason why the system activated and Jinwoo was able to survive was because of the architect himself. Even though he was opposed to Jinwoo's becoming his master's successor, he was chosen by the monarch himself to be his successor, and therefore the architect had no choice in the matter. After waking up, Jinwoo realizes that there is a message above his head, something that only he can read. The leader of the surveillance team, Mr. Wu, wanted to reevaluate him, because the only way for him to have survived would have been through a reawakening, at least logically. But even upon measuring his strength again, nothing had changed. He was the same person that he was before, the weakest hunter of mankind. But the message that only he was able to see was actually a program to actually help him get stronger. By completing daily quests, he would get certain rewards that would allow him to get stronger. With all of his stars starting at 10, he gets a +1 in each stat every single time he levels up. And he also gets stats points as rewards for doing either his daily quest or sometimes clearing dungeons. The system would give him keys that would allow him to go to certain dungeons, but everything was always prepared and everything was always done on purpose. But every single one of the battles that we were fighting were all without a job, and upon reaching a certain level, he finally got a job quest, which ended up being his encounter with Igris, one of his main shadows as well as my favorite one. And everything made sense as well as the reason why he was able to defeat him. His powers have been sealed because he was supposed to be a test for Jinwoo, and even when he saw Jinwoo throw his weapons away, he decided to throw his own weapon away, just to give him a fair and respectable fight. And upon Jinwoo becoming a necromancer, Igris was the first shadow that he extracted. Even though he wasn't actually the first, he's the first important shadow. The rest are just regular soldiers. And this again was calculated. So he continued his journey, gaining experience and collecting more shadows, increasing the size of his army, even carrying the Jeju Island raid, in which he wasn't even supposed to participate. Even though the rest of the people were doing a great job at first, once the king of the end appeared, it was already too late. He was able to destroy every single one of the other side. Not even the S rank of any country were able to stand up to him. But once Jinwoo got on the scene, he was able to defeat the boss and even extract his shadow, which became one of his most loyal servants. At that point, Jinwoo already did his reevaluation and ended up becoming the S rank just like everybody else on the scene. But he decided himself that he didn't want to participate in the raid, but that was until it was actually needed. And even though he could have avoided certain casualty if he was there before, he was still able to save a couple lives and protect some people. So he still did a great job overall, because nobody was going to be able to defeat that end, for the simple reason that all of the national level hunters were busy with something else. I will talk more about the lore and about how everything makes sense, but I feel like this should be a separate video. But now it is time to dive deep into his character. One of the main things to notice about Jinwoo is that he always sticks by his morals. Whether you take him when he was a E rank, a B rank, S rank, national level, or even a god, Jinwoo never changed when it came to accomplishing what he wanted to accomplish. He didn't let the power get to him. The only thing that changed about him is his confidence, because he was now able to do more and he knew that he had that power. He wouldn't hesitate to kill if it had to be done. Sometimes I forget the actual name, so I might end up calling them by their shadow name. For a long period of time, Greed wanted to kill him, either to avenge his brother or simply because he wanted to kill him. And his dead brother was the perfect excuse to do so. But with time, Jinwoo ended up surpassing him by far. So he decided to kidnap Jinwoo, his friend, and even after the warning that Thomas Hendry gave him, Jinwoo ended up killing him because he put his hand on somebody that he considered his little brother. And even when he sees criminals, he gives them the chance to turn themselves in, and only if they don't, he kills them himself. Jinwoo became some form of a judge on Earth. He isn't like Light Yagami, who's somebody who would just kill any sort of criminal. Jinwoo would give people chances, but unless you threaten somebody that is part of his family or that he considers family or a good friend, it would never kill you for no reason. And this goes very well with how his character used to be. As the weakest hunter, he didn't have enough power to be justice, but he was still trying his hardest, all this in order to save his mom. Even though it was very hard for him to win any form of money, he was still trying as hard as he could. And no matter who will tell him to stop, he will still never stop. The only difference is that he actually got strong, and now he actually has the power to do everything he needs to do. Saving his mom, protecting his family, making money in order to help his family and friends, and always being there to prevent as many casualties possible, dispatching his shadows through the neighborhood in order to protect them. The reason why Ashbourne chose him over anybody else is that no matter how strong a hunter is, there is a limit to their determination, and is there a limit to how kind they can be. Some A-rank hunter could seem like the perfect candidate, but the second he gets too strong, it will be over for everybody else. Even though he's seen multiple powerful people, you've never seen anyone that had the mentality, the resilience, and the heart that Sung Jinwoo had. This was the most important part. Anybody could be strong, anybody could have good stats, anybody could wanna do good. But how many people, even being E-rank, are going to be this resilient? After facing death at least 5 times, they will still continue and try their best, and even at the very last moment still want to find a way to survive. Fight in a hopeless state even though it was abandoned by everybody else. Him becoming stronger wasn't that hard to begin with. All he had to do was follow the system and level up little by little. And this is why why Ashbourne saw so much potential in him. Another thing that I love about his character is the relationship with his shadows. Even though his shadows are extremely loyal and would never complain about any form of treatment, he decides to treat them all with respect, be nice to every single one of them. The biggest example of that is Beru, that has some of the most adorable moments that I've seen in the whole series. Seeing Beru's first appearance, destroying everything, killing all of the S-rank hunters with no difficulty, a weapon of mass destruction, a weapon of vengeance. Seeing this creature become one of the most emotional one is one of the coolest things I've seen. The shadows always collecting the loot for him after a raid without him even having to ask, and them always being in some sort of competition to get his praise, or some form of competition to stand by his side. The relationship between Jinwoo and his shadows is one of my favorite master to servant dynamic in all of manga or manhwa. On top of his personality being great, there's just the fact that he's cool, a character that always stands on business no matter what, or no matter who he is fighting. And one of my favorite panels is him throwing the middle figure at Thomas Andre. Like, just his art style, his panels are just so beautiful. Every single time he awakens or is in combat, you would see some form of beautiful panel. Of course, this is credit to the artist himself, but that still adds on to the reason why I love the character so much. To me, this is what makes a character or a series good. Just how enjoyable they can be. Not everything needs to be extremely deep. As long as you can just enjoy what you're seeing is what matters. And the best series will be the series that manages to give you the most entertainment. It isn't always about story writing or other specific aspects. In Jinwoo, on top of having some great writing behind them, he's just very enjoyable. Having cool moments, good morals, good personality, or never really doing any sort of contract with anybody until he has something big to gain. Unless it includes saving people, which is different. Another small detail that I like is the fact that the system completely disappeared upon his revival. When Jinwoo came back with all of Ashbourne's powers, there were no longer any sort of inventory or commands on the screen. He just had control over everything, but everything was real this time, showing that these are now his powers and the system is completely useless now. He has basically already beat the game and now he has to do more with the power that he has. All this to say, Solo Leveling is truly an amazing story, and after only watching the first episode, I couldn't stop myself from reading the whole manhwa in 3 days. Yes, 200 chapters in 3 days. It was enjoyable, but I couldn't really do anything else because I was so focused on reading that. And I for sure don't regret it. Leave a like on this video and let me know in the comments if you want to see more Solo Leveling content on the channel. I appreciate y'all for making it to this point, and I will see y'all next time. Peace.